Hi guys, in this episode we're going to look at the smallest RC car that I have, and also we're going to do some upgrades. In this episode I'll be a little bit crouched down because we're looking at one of the smallest RC cars that I have. If you've been following me on Instagram for a little while, you might have seen that I've been posting pretty much a whole week of nothing but Kawada RC car products. I have a bunch of cars from them, wheels, accessories, whatnot, actually some on the way as well. But this one is the smallest one, and this is the Kawada M-24 Tripmate. So what this is a 1/24th scale pancar-ish RC car, sort of like what Tamiya used to have with the Temtec. Sort of in the late 80s, early 90s, and what later on became very popular, the Kyosho Mini-Z. I also used to race a few of those. So what this is a very similar RC car. So if I take the body shell off, it's this cool Supra. This is what it is. And the way I built it, I bought it as a new in-box kit, probably 10 years or so ago. And what it is a very basic plastic pancar chassis. So what it has is, and what makes it really cool, is that it has a fully adjustable wheelbase and width. So you see these screws here on the side. The main chassis actually is two parts, and you can take it apart and slide it in or slide it out to adjust the wheelbase. And then for the wheels and the suspension, to make it wider or narrower, you actually have, and I don't know if you can see it on the camera because it's pretty small, but there are these notches that you can, well actually from the bottom you can see it a little bit better. There's these slots on the bottom of the chassis with these two screws holding in the front suspension, and on the top side you have these notches where you can just move it millimeter by millimeter either out or in to change the width. That's the front, and on the rear actually, and again this is hard to see, but there are spacers behind the rear wheels and also some notches so you can change the width on the rear axle. So because like I said, it's a pancar style chassis, it has a solid rear axle with a diff and basically a floating motor pod in the back with a fiberglass H plate, as you can see here, which is very similar to what you would see on a Kyosho Mini-Z. So basically the rear axle can twist and flex up and down just on this fiberglass H plate. But again, the axle is solid. It does have a gear differential, and hidden in the back here, all the way in the middle, is a spring. Not a damper, just a little spring. It almost looks like something from a pen. But that's all of the suspension in the back. The front, very similar to, again, pan cars, where it doesn't have any suspension arms or anything. It just has the knuckle, a kingpin, and a spring in between. So you can just move the suspension up and down per wheel. I really like this design because it's very simple. You don't need a lot of parts. It's very easy to upgrade, change some of the suspension tuning because you can change the stiffness of the H plate, different springs. It's all very basic, but it does really work very well in this scale. The Kyosho Mini-Zs, like I said, very similar design, especially the first ones, the MR01. And again, those drove very well, so I really do like this design a lot. I bought this kit, new in box, about 10 years ago, and if I move the Supra to the side, you can actually see that I bought it as a Ferrari F50 kit. This is the reason why I never built it in the beginning, because I only really collect Toyota body shells, so a Ferrari would look a little bit out of place, as much as I do like the F50, especially the GT model. But it would look a little bit out of place in my collection, so I never actually really got around to building it. Until I posted it on Tamiya Club, the forum of Tamiya Club, and very generously one of the Australian members of that club gifted me not one, but two Toyota Supras. So this is the painted one, but it's a little bit scratched up and it's not so nice. But inside the box, let's see if I can show it. It will obviously be transparent, but he also gave me an unpainted Supra body shell. So that's really cool. I at some point want to get around to actually painting this, stickering it up, because I do also have the stickers inside the box. Never got around to it, but I will at some point. Maybe actually after this video might be a good time, because as I said, we're also going to upgrade the chassis, so that might be the perfect time to also give it a brand new body shell. Just like the M24, also around 10 years ago, I ended up buying a new in-box, bigger brother of this car, the Kawada SV10 touring car. And with that kit also came this, which is a catalog from Kawada with all of their chassis and upgrades and wheels and whatnot from that time. It's from 2001, and this incidentally also is the first year that I started with proper RC cars. Obviously I also had some toy grade cars before, but in 2001 on my 11th birthday I got a Tamiya Wild Dagger, built it with a friend, and basically this is where my hobby completely spiraled out of control and how I ended up with the collection that I have right now. Cool thing about this catalog is that this is pretty much the same time, like I said, late 90s, early 2000s, when this car, the M24, came out. So inside the catalog is also obviously a page dedicated to the M24 Tripmate, this one right here. You can see all of the available options at the time, the available body shells. So back then you had the Ferrari F50 like I have, you had the Supra, but also a Skyline R33 GTR and a Mercedes CLK GTR. What's cool about all the upgrades is that Kawada actually made a conversion kit called the M-24R, and this is very similar to what Kyosho did a couple of years later with their models, where they went from a rear motor design like my M24 Tripmate, you can see the motor is right here in the back, to a mid-motor conversion, and also a bunch of little other upgrades and so on. Longer suspension plate, we'll get to this. So this is the M24R conversion, and actually 2 weeks or so ago I managed to find one new in the pack on eBay for I think maybe $20 including shipping, so that is amazing. Here you can see it's the M24R conversion. So what we're going to do for the rest of this video is take apart my original M24 and build it into the M24R. I went ahead and opened up the packet, which can be quite of a scary moment when you're working with these vintage models, but so far so good. So I opened it up, you get a manual, here it says M24R, or M24R conversion. It has very simple instructions, only 2 pages, and it comes with a couple of parts. So it comes with 2 halves of the new main chassis. So I think you're going to replace the back half of the chassis looking at this, and the front half will stay the same. It comes with a new H-plate, or well, in this case it probably is like a T-plate, I guess. The shape is kind of different. It comes with 2 bags of screws and metal parts. So one is a new rear spring, again not a damper, just a spring, but it looks better than what's on the car right now. Some screws, a new motor pod, because it's going from rear motor or rear, how should I call it, RR layout, rear motor behind the axle, to mid motor conversion, and some little plastic bits that I've put here in the parts tray so I don't lose them. Right, so let's take apart the M24, and then we can start assembling all of the new bits. Now, the original M24 is taken apart, and all that really remains is, like I said, just the front half of the chassis. So the entire rear half of the car will be replaced by these new pieces, which is the middle half and also the battery holder of the chassis. And then it will also get a new motor pod with the mid-motor conversion. And it looks like you're going to have to reuse a couple of the parts of the original M24. Like, for example, the body mounts, they're tiny, but you have to reuse them. Some of the screws, the original antenna holder, and then also, obviously, of course, the entire rear axle with the wheels, with the differential. Oh, careful, so it doesn't drop. And then the original motor. So what's going to go is the back half of the original chassis with the battery door. It had a different shape of battery holder, which is very important because the M24R uses different batteries, probably so it has a little bit more capacity or a little bit more voltage. There might be a cell more in there or something like that. Also, the location of the battery will be slightly different, maybe a little bit lower, so that will be good for the handling. Unfortunately, the new motor pod is black, while the original one was red, which I kind of liked because it sort of completed the look of the car, and also it has Kawada M-24 stamped in the motor cover, which will also disappear. So that's a bit sad, but in the end it will be the better handling car. If at some point I'll get electrics, I can actually start racing it too. So yeah, the original one is apart. Let's start with building it up as the M24R. Okay, as you can see, I got the M24R all put together. It's a complete chassis right now. You can see it has the mid-motor, the new bright yellow spring setup with the longer T-plate on the bottom, and actually it also comes with like a little ball here, so it's actually a ball suspension. It's all put together, it looks really nice. A couple of extra tweaks that I didn't see in the beginning, but that you only find out if you go through the not super clear manual. For example, also the front suspension is changed. So this M24R kit comes with a few little spacers that go underneath the front, what should I call it, bulkheads, C-hubs, for the suspension to kind of raise the suspension, lower the chassis, so it's actually good for the center of gravity. And also it comes with some different springs on the top of the front knuckles. So these are a little bit wider, maybe a little bit stiffer, I'm not sure, but at least the setup has changed. So for the rear, like I said, now has a mid-motor, a top spring setup, a T-plate on the bottom. Also, what I found out is that the rear axle itself, so the shaft, has been replaced. So this is the old one. The new one for the M24R actually is a little bit wider. So it still uses the same spacers to get the width here on one side. On the other side, all of the spacers are gone. You can see that the tire is now much closer to the differential to get the same width. So the stock suspension on the rear is wider than normal. You can still widen it a little bit if you wanted to, but I think I actually had it on one of the widest settings, so I don't know why you would, but you can. So I ran into a little bit of a problem though, and in the beginning of doing this conversion, I was already wondering how they got the mid-motor setup to work with all of the wheelbase options for this chassis. The short answer is they didn't. So let me show you my problem. So this is the new 24R, right? I've built it in the shortest wheelbase possible. This is the Supra that was on the normal M24 before. Yeah, I don't know if you can tell, but the front wheel definitely isn't in the wheel well on this side. The wheelbase of the M24R is much longer than I had on the Supra. Supra body though is the shortest wheelbase available on the M24, so I can imagine that that doesn't work. The F50 that came originally with this kit has a longer wheelbase, but let me show you, and I don't know if you can see it on the transparent body, but the rear wheels here are aligned, front wheels still too far forward. So also my F50 doesn't fit. So I'm in a bit of a pickle here because I don't have any body shell that actually fits on the M24R. Looking at the manual, it shows you only the Mercedes CLK GTR body shell, so I expect that this might be the longest wheelbase body that Kawada made for the chassis, and that it might just be the only one that fits. I can still, or it seems like I can still shorten the suspension or the wheelbase, but actually some of the parts would interfere, so I think this is really the only realistic wheelbase you can use on the chassis. So what I'm gonna do, I'm not sure yet. This does open a couple other possibilities that the Kawada M24 was built for. If I show you the box, actually on one of the sides of the box, it shows you a bunch of examples and probably written in Japanese here. I cannot read it yet. I am taking courses, but I'm not that far yet. Probably what it says is that you can use 1/24th scale miniature kits, so like model kits, scale model kits, to use as the body shell for this chassis. So they have a bunch of Tamiya options here, but I'm sure any 24th scale body shell that's sort of the right wheelbase and width can be used on this chassis. So maybe that's what I'll be looking for, or in the end I might turn it back into the original M24 and keep it as a Supra body. We'll see. Couple little extra bits that I wanted to tell you about. One is the cool body mount system that comes with the M24. Actually, to use it on the M24R in the manual, it says you have to cut up the rear one. As you can see, mine are still on the sprue because I haven't decided yet on what I want to do with the body shell. So far, or for now at least, I'm going to keep them on the sprue. But the way it works is actually these body mounts, they're adjustable. You can screw them in or screw them out to change the height. And they have a little ball on the top. The mounts, these are supposed to be taped on the inside of your body shell. And the way they work is that you can actually put them on top of the ball. Let's see, is this the right side? Yes. And then slide it over and lock it into place. Right now it's locked. As you can see, I can pull the car up. And then the front one, this one, the more narrow one, actually clicks onto the balls on the front. So it's sort of like what you would call a stealth mount for RC drift cars. You can slide it in, lock it in place, click it in place, and you will not see any body post or anything protruding the body shell on the outside. So if you want to use a scale model kit as a body shell, this is perfect because on the outside you'll never be able to tell it's an RC car apart from maybe the wheel nuts. But you can still use it as an RC car, so that's pretty cool. It also comes with a couple of pinion options, so you can use different size pinions. The motor mount is adjustable, just like on a 1/10 scale touring car. So that's a little nifty option that also comes with the M24. And that's pretty much it, I think. So yeah, it's a bit of anticlimactic ending with me not able to use the M24R conversion, but anyway, it was fun to build, and it gave me a good excuse to show you guys this little car, because it's one of my favorites from my collection because it's so small and cute, and obviously also because it has a Supra, so that's always a bonus. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this build. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. If you have any questions about the Kawada M24, feel free to shoot me a message. And in the meantime, if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel, give me a thumbs up if you liked the video, and you can always follow me on Instagram, which is @enjoyrc_dice. The link is in the description, and yeah, that's it for now. Thank you guys for watching, and till the next video. Bye bye.